Hello, everybody. Greetings and welcome to another adventure in history. I'm your host, Shane McInnes, and it's been a little while since we've done a history stream. And I guess it's been a week, but we've had a couple of non-history streams in between then, and it seems like forever since we've been here just to talk history and make bad puns and goof off. Hey, Fid, how's it going? How is everybody? Hope everybody is doing all right. It is a very odd Thursday. This week has been a bit unique. I had Monday and Tuesday off for ostensibly fall break, but basically an extended Columbus Day break because that's still a thing here in America. They were historic in their lack of history. Hey, Vern, how's it going? So my wife and I went up to a cabin and sat on a lake and read comic books and Dune and walked around and watched birds and saw an eagle, and it was just good times. Lots of deer and wildlife and nature and all that fun stuff. And I came back sunburned. I know that it might look weird, but I'm actually a bit pink tonight. I got a pretty bad sunburn. This is going to sound odd, but I actually got a sunburn from sitting in the shade because I am that pale. That sunlight bounces off of other things, hits me in the shade, and gives me a sunburn. I was not in direct sunlight in the area that I am sunburned in more than maybe 5-10 minutes. But I fell asleep on the porch in the shade, woke up with sunburn. It was so bad yesterday that it was literally making me irritable. Like, it was so itchy that I could not stand it. I went to bed last night at about 5:30 just to literally try to get away from the itch. Yeah, I've got aloe. I've been aloeing the devil out of myself. He burned in a cave. Oh man, I burn so easily. I'm so pale. So pale. So yesterday was interesting. I had to go to work. I was itchy all day long. That made me a bit irritable. I had a lot of grading to do. I've still got a lot of grading to do. Yeah, it's just a weird week. But I hope you all are having a great one, and I hope you all are doing well. I hope everybody is having a good day and a good week, as good as we can have in the time of COVID. So there's that. For anybody that might be here that's new, the show is Adventures in History. We talk about history. We chat about things. Hey, Arcadian. We chat about things historic, make pop cultural references, goof off, try to have fun, usually succeed. Because history doesn't always have to be boring, right? It doesn't have to be just some old guy sitting up on a stage rambling and monotone. It doesn't have to be that at all. It can be goofy, and we're going to talk about the stench of camels and making fart jokes in history and all sorts of insulting things that have happened in the past. So today we are talking about the Peloponnesian Wars, which happened in Greece. And I guess I should zoom our map over there. I've got it sitting over here on the United States as if we are the center of the world. It's near middle-aged guy being boring speaking in model. Oh, that's horrible, man. I don't think I'm near middle-aged. Take the least offensive one of those. I'm not old. I'm 37. I'm not old. I'm going to ride that one all year long, by the way. For those of you that are not aware, there's a scene in Monty Python where a character says that particular line. It's right before my favorite scene, which is the socially aware peasant. I love that scene. My favorite scene in the entire movie. So I will be quoting Dennis quite a bit this year. I've only got 1 year that I can do that with, so may as well use it to the hilt, right? So we're talking about the Peloponnesian Wars, which are actually a series of wars. I know that when you learned about them in school, they probably were not called the Peloponnesian Wars. It was just called the Peloponnesian War, which is something that I do even in my World Civ 1 class, because we usually don't have enough time to get far enough into them to really explain what's going on. Usually it's more like, hey, and then the Greeks fought each other, and it was anger about Persia, and everybody was mad, and that's why they fought. So, I mean, I kind of gloss over it myself. In World Civ 1, I have to cover human history from the earliest human being until the Protestant Reformation, and I have to do that in one class. So some things have to take a hit, like the Peloponnesian Wars. So, I'm actually excited to talk about these. These are things that I've taught about before when I taught in higher level history classes for university students that were history majors. So I had a lot of material prepared on this already, and I was pretty excited to get back around to it, because there's so many great little stories and little things that happen in these conflicts, and I'm excited to sort of share them with you. So, with no more beating around the bush, unless anybody has anything. Anybody got any questions? Anybody want to spend any points? Do anything? How are you? Make sure you let me know how you are. I see people. Hope you're all doing well. Let me know how you are. I don't want this to just be one guy speaking in monotone being boring, as my best friend so lovingly put it. How is everybody? I'll pause here for just a second. Big Crowds. Hey, how's it going, Big Crowds 1? Welcome. Welcome, welcome. And feel free to participate. Doesn't have to just be me talking. Make movie references or song references. I like that stuff. Okay, well, everybody's quiet. That's okay. You can do your thing. No worries. I'll just kind of go on ahead. So, what's up with these Peloponnesian Wars? First off, where does that word even come from? Well, this guy right here is the Peloponnesian Peninsula. All right, so the Balkan Peninsula is a very large peninsula itself, and it's made of tinier peninsulas. I know at least one person in the room will get that reference, but I don't know how many other people will. But this guy right here is the Peloponnesian Peninsula, and for the majority of the period of time that we're going to be talking about tonight, it is under the domination of one particular big city. Oh, it's actually still there. I can actually zoom in on it. This is Sparta. Modern day Sparti, but you know what I mean. This is the modern day city of Sparta. Here's the old Acropolis up here. But Sparta itself is one of the two big sort of protagonists of tonight's story. And one of the things to sort of understand about Sparta, just off of the bat, Sparta is geared for war. Their entire lifestyle is built around this concept of warfare. It does kind of look like a hand. At about 7 or 8 years old, the Spartan boys get taken away from their parents, and they get put in what can only be defined as a boot camp where a lot of them will die. And they get beaten with sticks and starved to death and thrown out into the wilderness and forced to survive on their own and taught and encouraged to steal and fight each other, and forced to run up mountains carrying boulders and stuff. And then by the time they get to teenage years, they're basically hard as nails. And then they join the military. And you're not supposed to live with a wife until you're at least 30, because Sparta doesn't want no weaklings having babies. So you got to prove yourself. And you basically stay in the mess hall with your unit. And you sleep in barracks with your unit until you're 30. And if you make it to 30, then you can go have kids, because you're going to have good, strong Spartan kids. And the Spartan male population is warrior. That's their job. If you get old enough that you can retire from the military, you get to transition to advisor to warrior. But they don't do farming. So you might ask how Sparta provides for itself. Well, there's a great question. It has a giant group of slaves. The women? Wow, what was life expectancy? You'd be surprised. These dudes were hard as nails. Children died all the time, and they didn't make it very frequently to the point where they... I'm not saying this the right way. Infants that were born with any sort of problem, deformities, born very small, born premature, they were usually just killed by exposure. They were literally thrown outside of the gates of the city and left to die. So the weak children were sort of weeded out at birth, which of course lowers the average life expectancy. But once you got into the agoge, they're going to lose probably 10 to 15% of the male population, because they're going to be the ones that can't make it through the agoge, which is this training school. But by the time you got to being an adult, if you made it to like adult Spartan male, you are a tough hombre. You are not going to go down easy. And the Spartans were absolutely feared. Everybody knew you don't want to get in a land battle with the Spartans. And so that leads us to, hey, Jacob Rennie. Jacob Rennie. I don't know where to divide your name, but thank you. Keep up the good listening. And welcome. So life expectancy of a male was probably about the same. They died a lot in battle, and they fought a lot, so you have to sort of average that in. But if you put them up against a modern person, probably... our modern life expectancy is into the high 70s. They're probably low 60s, maybe. But lots of attrition from battle, so you need lots of good, strong Spartan boys. The women? The women actually did a lot of work. Women in Sparta were expected to sort of run the household. They were seen as pretty important when it came to making business decisions, especially if the men were away. The women were sort of the dealers of the household purse, money. They were also expected to have lots of kids. You got to have lots of kids if you're going to keep this up, right? So how do they do that? Well, the Spartans have this giant group of people that are enslaved called helots. And most of the big cities on the backside of the Peloponnesian Peninsula, so like this region over here, and especially this region right down here, there's a big city called Messina. So this region is going to sort of be directly under the Spartan control. And these are going to be helots that are forced to work and farm so that the Spartan men don't have to. And that's an important thing to remember because that's going to come up a lot. So here's Sparta. And of course, they're on the Peloponnesian Peninsula. Their group is going to be called the Peloponnesian League. These are going to be allies of the Spartans, and we'll talk about who sort of lines up where a little bit later on. But their arch nemesis is Athens, which of course is right over here. I just wanted to put the pin on there so that you could see it. Athens is on another peninsula. Ooh, crud, I just killed it. I did not mean to kill Athens. Athens is on what's called the Attic Peninsula, or Attica. It has its own group of supporters, though. It has with it lots of colonies, lots of connections on the islands around the Greek peninsula, lots of connections over in what they called Ionia, which would have been I got to zoom out, the border of Turkey here. So the Athenians are going to have a much larger network of both supplies and friends than the Spartans. And these two groups are going to be the ones that bump up against each other. Favorite faction in Rome Total War? That's a tough one. Part of me likes playing the Numidians. I'm sort of a cavalry fan. The Numidians have that really good Northern African cavalry. But the Gauls are cool too. I like the Gauls. I mean, everybody likes the Romans, and you got to play as the Romans. But you can throw some spin in there. And Numidia and Gaul both become part of the Roman Empire later on, so you can kind of switch it up a little bit. So, Athens v Sparta, and this is going to be the big duo. So, it's important to remember a couple of things here, and we've talked about this previously, so I won't go into depth with it. But the Greeks had been fighting a really long series of conflicts against the Persians, and at a certain point, the Spartans had decided that their job was pretty much done, and Sparta is going to go back home with its allies, and the Athenians and their friends, who were called the Delian League, are going to continue poking at the Persians, and they're going to have some big wins and they're going to have some big losses, and their sort of leader at the beginning is this dude named Cimon, who is the strategos, or the strategic leader of the Delian League. And so when Sparta goes back home at the end of the invasions of Persia, the Delian League keeps going, and Athens, of course, keeps going with them. And for a period of time, it looks a lot like Athens was going to take over basically everything. And I realize now that I have a really good image that I'm supposed to be showing you right now. So let's switch over and look at this neat little map that I found, because this is going to show you pretty much what I'm talking about in a lot better detail. Okay, so if we're looking at the map of the Greek world right here, we've got some colors. So if you see the red territory is Athens and its allies. And again, note that they've got lots of these little islands. They've got territory over in the Ionian world, up in Thrace, over here in what would be later on part of the Macedonian Empire, up here in Thessaly. You can see that there are a lot of Greeks at the beginning that are not necessarily aligned with this, especially these people over here on the island of Sicily and what is Syracuse and Messene. These are going to be big players later on, but note that not everybody wants to pick a side here, and not everybody wants to get involved in these conflicts, and that's important to understand, because there are going to be periods of time where people really try to get out of the way. He's the cousin of cheap but wants to be fancy lemon-flavored spirits. I am not sure exactly to what that is a reference, KP. Lemon-flavored spirits, like limoncello? Oh, Cimon. There we go. Haha, gotcha. Okay. So, lots of people. Oh, and I have a picture of Cimon, too. I've neglected my photos. So here's Cimon. Bum-ba-da-bum. Handsome devil. Nice looking dude. Anyway, so Cimon, Peloponnesian League, Delian League, all this stuff's going on. But here's what happens. Athens keeps winning. And if you'll remember, or for those of you that don't know, the Delian League takes it to the Persians for a little while. And they really put a whipping on the Persians. And it looks like they're going to be really powerful when this is over. The Delian League brings in a lot of new a lot of new cities, which of course means that they are increasing also their troops and their ships and their money. And Athens is sort of in charge of all of this stuff. And the Spartans get a little uncomfortable. They sort of feel like maybe we should not have left this war effort to the Athenians. We thought that they were done. Now they're still going, and they're getting bigger than we are. And what is especially disturbing the Spartans is the fleet. The Athenian navy is the biggest navy in Greece at this point. And Sparta doesn't have a big navy. They're not really a naval power. They are much more a land power, and they rely on their allies to supply fleet most of the time. Now, the Spartans have some ships. They're not completely without a navy, but they're getting way outpaced here by the Athenians. These guys are probably 3 or 4 times larger in the navy. And Athens sort of recognizes that they're in the driver's seat now. And they're getting kind of cocky. And so they start making trouble. And there is a city, so colonial America versus Britain. If it was just the Delian League versus the Spartan fleet, that's an accurate assessment. Now, when you throw in all of the other Spartan allies, the Corinthian fleet, some of the fleet from Megara, it was a lot more equitable. It was probably more like 65-35 when you included all of the Spartan allies, but they were still outnumbered, and it was an obvious, big deficit. So the Delian League in Athens is going to start doing some sneaky stuff. And there's a city on the Peloponnesian Peninsula called Argos, and I can show you where it is. Oh, do I still have all of my... Oh, that's neat. I still have lots of pins around here. Anyway, so Argos is on the same peninsula as... I need you to go away, though. I don't want the pins. When I went to Greece, I have all these little push pins, but I did not think that I had those push pins on. Oh well. Will the adventure hat be making an appearance? Maybe. It depends. People can summon the adventure hat. I don't necessarily have anything specifically planned right now, but that doesn't mean it won't. It could. I have it. It is here, ready to go. But maybe. Anyway, Argos is not so far away from Sparta. Argos is here. Sparta is here. And Argos had sort of always had it in for the Spartans. They didn't really care for the Spartans at all. And Argos decides that it's time to sort of pitch in with the Athenians. Like, this is the time to really stick it to the Spartans. So we're going to join up with the Delian League. And this makes the Spartans really uncomfortable, because that puts a big block between Sparta and its other big ally, Corinth, which is right here. So Sparta is here, Argos is here, Corinth is here. And, well, if Sparta and Corinth want to team up, they got to go basically right past Argos, and if Argos is on the side of the Athenians, that really sucks. And the Athenians know this. So then the Athenians do something even worse. They look at this big city right here called Megara. And they basically force Megara into an alliance. And at that point, Corinth is basically surrounded on one side by Argos, on the other side by Megara. And if Sparta wants to try to attack Athens, they've got to go past an Athenian ally on this side of the Peloponnesian, and then on this side of the Isthmus of Corinth to even get over here to Athens. Sluttiest Business Princess. Is this series taking us from ancient to modern? Yeah. We are moving slowly through time. It will eventually, absolutely. Many years from now. Hopefully, if I'm still going in a couple of years, we'll get to modern time. We've been going since the the end of April, and we are just now getting to the 400s BC. So, yeah, well, it'll take a while, and things will slow down even more as we get into more modern times and there's more history going on. Well, rephrased, more history that we know about going on. So, when all of this stuff happens, Sparta gets really upset. Like, really, really, really upset. And they start poking at Athens, basically telling them to back off. Like, you're taking our allies from us. You're purposely trying to corner us. And then some stuff really goes wrong for the Spartans. The Helots revolt, and this is in 464 BC. And they call for aid. Like, okay, our friends, come aid us. And Cimon, knowing that the Athenians were going to be sort of dumb to let this opportunity go, brings 4,000 Athenian troops down to help the Spartans. And the Spartans get real skeptical at this. Like, okay, you're taking our allies. Now you're marching a big ol' honkin' army down into the Peloponnesian while we're in the middle of a war. Why don't you take your Athenians and go back home? And this is a pretty big insult because at that point, Sparta was in trouble. How many years to get to Henry VIII? Oh, goodness gracious. 2 years? Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a long way. But if you want to hear Henry VIII, come on Tuesdays, and you can put that request in on a viewer request night. So every other Tuesday we do viewer request episodes, and people can pick whatever they want to hear about, and I'll talk about that on the next viewer request episode. So the next one on Tuesday is on the Industrial Revolution, which is something that's very, very modern. But we'll be talking about it because that's what viewers picked. So Henry VIII would probably get some votes. Oh, that's not the 8th. That's the 7th. Probably get some votes. So never fear. Just rally the troops and come on a viewer request night and get everybody to vote for your stuff. Alternatively, you can keep coming to the show. And you are accumulating, as we speak, adventure points, which are below the chat channel. And if you accumulate 10,000 adventure points, you can change those in and name the viewer request episode. The next one of those that's coming up was selected by one of our frequent viewers. And we'll be doing the history of cheese, which is what that particular viewer wanted. Spent 10,000 points on it. So there we go. Yep. So on every other Tuesday. So we actually did an abbreviated history/Gundam build stream on Tuesday. But this coming Tuesday, which is 4 or 5 days from now, we'll be doing the Industrial Revolution. So if you hang around for that show, at the end of the episode, I'll take suggestions, and we'll fill up the little multiple choice poll, and then I'll open the poll up and people vote. Yep, there we go. Oh, KP's already got it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, so what killed a preacher said. So, in the middle of all of this, these helots start causing trouble, and Athens decides that it's going to play one more sneaky card. And it actually takes some of these helots that had escaped from Sparta and settles them in a city right near Corinth. And at this point, Corinth is like hacked off. Corinth decides this is the end. We're fighting now. You've taken one of the cities on the other side of us. You're friends with the other city on the other side of us. Now you're settling people that are rebels against us in our backyard. No, we don't like this. And Cimon is in the middle of all of this, still trying to run the Delian League, and he sees what's happening here. He sees the potential for problems, and he tries to stop this thing from spiraling out of control. And what he ends up doing is getting kicked out of Athens. He gets ostracized, which means that he could not step foot back in Athens for a decade. And things get real bad, because this is what's going to bring in the actual First Peloponnesian War, which is from 460 to 445. This is BC. So this, by the way, overlaps the war with Persia, because the Delian League is still fighting the Persians. And the Athenians had just sent a very, very large group of ships and soldiers down to Egypt to fight against the Persians in league with the Egyptians. And that's an important thing to remember. So there's a big battle right outside of Corinth. And they're going to lose, the Athenians are, but things start developing. And we're going to go back to a map here so that I can show you exactly where we're talking about. Okay, so if we look at this map here, we see Athens, all right, and this is the Attica Peninsula. This is the Argos Peninsula. Here's Corinth. So there had been this big naval battle combined with an actual land battle here, so kind of like a combo land naval battle here. And Athens is going to recognize that Corinth is sort of the weak link. And if they can kind of knock Corinth out of the picture, then they'll be able to move troops all the way down basically to Sparta's back door, because they'll have this whole corridor of land that they can march through, and they can use all of these ports all over this Saronic Gulf right here as staging areas for their troops. Until this guy right here, this little island, the island itself is called Aegina, but there's a city on it called Aegina, the city-state of Aegina. They're going to recognize that they're effectively going to lose their seat. If they don't, they're either going to side with Athens, or Athens is going to take them over, because Athens was looking to dominate the entire Saronic Gulf. And so if you're poor little Aegina, what are you going to do? Well, they're not really poor. They actually have a fairly sizable fleet and a decent-sized army. What they're going to do, well, they're going to side with the Spartans, and they're going to tell Athens to kind of shove it. And Athens doesn't take this very well. They destroy a big portion of the Aegean fleet, and they laid siege to the city. And, well, that's kind of a bad thing. But here comes Corinth. They're gonna make a go of it. They're gonna say, "Oh, we're not gonna just sit in our house. We're gonna go take Megara back. Megara was supposed to be on our side. You forced them to join your side. We're gonna go liberate the city of Megara." So they march up the isthmus here. So Corinth leaves their place and they march over here, and they fight this big war, or this big battle, against the Athenians. And neither side really wins. They both sort of have to withdraw. But Athens decides to just play the propaganda. And so they go sort of back to the battle site, and they start erecting the big victory monument. Like, yeah, we beat the Corinthians. And the Corinthians are like, but no, man, you didn't beat us. So Corinth tries to go back to the city to erect their own victory monument, and they end up walking right into an Athenian trap and getting hammered. Oh, Corinthians. If only they would have just paid attention and not cared so much about winning. Picture it didn't happen. Yeah. Well, see, that's the ancient thing. Instead of having a picture of it, you'd just erect a big victory monument, and you'd carve on the big rock, "The Athenians beat the Corinthians at so-and-so date at so-and-so time." And if you didn't have a giant stela, so it's stela or it didn't happen. Oh, man. The Corinthians just had to have that victory, and they blundered, and it's just really bad. And at this point, you might be wondering what Sparta is doing, right? They're supposed to be at war. Well, they had sort of been sitting back waiting to see what was going to happen. The Helots were still an issue. The Trojan stela. We're going to hide inside the stela, and then when the Corinthians return, we'll leap out. History is written by the victors. Right, exactly. So Sparta's kind of just sitting there, and they're kind of just waiting, hoping for their allies basically to soak up a lot of this damage. They don't want to go too far away because of these Helots, and Sparta decides, after Corinth really blunders themselves into a loss here, that they've got to do something. So they decide they're going to try to go relieve Corinth. So Sparta marches its army up to Corinth, and they're going to sort of do a bit of a surprise maneuver here. They bring their fleet with them, and the Athenians weren't necessarily really suspecting this, and the Athenians actually kind of get caught with their pants down, and they can't get their troops back to the ships fast enough because, they see the first off, they see the big Spartan army marching up, and they're like, oh, heck no, dude, we are not going to fight them on land. But then the Spartan navy comes up too, and they're like, oh crap. So normally they would run to the boats and float away, but like now we can't get and what ends up happening is that Sparta puts a big whipping down on the Athenian army. And this is where some interesting stuff happens. And also brings us to our fun title tonight, which is Balkan on Broken Glass. Which, if you don't know, is a pun on a fun song from Annie Lennox called Walking on Broken Glass, which is all about begging to be taken back by a dumped lover. Which I think is super appropriate for this particular scenario because it happens multiple times. So the Athenian navy tries to cut off the Spartan return, but they can't do it. So the Spartans march up to Corinth. They beat the Athenian army, and they get away scot-free from it. And at this point, Cimon begs to be let back. He goes to Athens, and he shows up like in his battle gear, and he's like, please take me back. And they're like, forget you, Cimon, we're not taking you back. You're ostracized, go away. If only they had just let him back in. All he was trying to do is save Athens. Well, things kind of go bad for Athenians after that. They lost this big army against the Spartans. The Athenians got caught with their togas down. So the Athenians, I see your stela is as big as mine. Oh, Kelly. Welcome, Kelly. Nobody suspects the Spartan navy. Nobody. So the Athenians lost against the Spartans on land outside Corinth. And if you'll remember, I said that they have this big army and big navy down in Egypt trying to help the Egyptians liberate themselves from the Persians. Well, guess what? That goes catastrophically bad. The Persians have a general down there named Megabaezes, who is incredibly intelligent, and he not only defeats the Athenian army and the Delian League army down in Egypt, he also traps a large portion of their resupply fleet and destroys all of them. And Athens is in bad shape. It appears we're at an impasse. So, who are you going to call? Who are you going to go to when everything looks bad? And guess who Athens calls back? That's right. They let Cimon back in before his period of time was up. And they go, we're sorry we ostracized you. We're sorry we kicked you out for wanting peace. We're sorry we didn't listen to you when you told us that the Egyptian thing was a bad move. And so Cimon gets reinstated, and the first thing they do is they go, hey man, can you get the Spartans off of our back, because we're in real bad shape right now. And he's like, yeah, I gotcha. So they work out a 5-year peace, and this is actually what ends the First Peloponnesian War. So they're at a bit of a breather now. And you might think, okay, so both sides are going to come to their senses. They're going to realize that they're not as powerful as they thought they were. Both sides are more vulnerable than they thought. Everybody's going to be happy and make hugs. No, that's dumb. You know it's not going to happen. Yeah, we're only we're not even halfway point yet, right? So Athens is going to lose ground. Everybody recognizes that the Delian League is not the invincible thing that it used to be. And a lot of the people that they controlled in the Delian League are going to start asking to be let out of the Delian League, especially territories not so far away from Athens itself. Places like Boeotia, which is just north of Athens. Geographically speaking, this region right here. And they go, we don't want to be part of your group anymore. And some people over here on the Peloponnesian Peninsula, right up over here, we're kind of done with your group now. We want to be by ourselves. And Athens kind of has to let them go, because they can't really just force them into the Delian League, because that would start another sort of angled war. And when those groups go, everybody is watching, and they're like, okay, so Athens is toast now, right? Everybody's jumping ship. And so open rebellion happens. The city of Megara, that had been a Spartan ally before all of this stuff started, they rebel. But what really, really hurts the Athenians is this island right here, Euboea. This whole big island was part of the Delian League, and the cities on it, especially this big city called Chalkis, were pretty heavily involved in the Athenian war plans. And so Euboea and Megara rebel. And Athens has to respond at this point, right? They can't just let everybody go away, because that would leave them empty-handed. So what they're going to do is they're going to try to pick. They're going to go, which one is the most strategically important? And they move their army up here to Euboea. And they're going to try to keep this island on lockdown. But guess who recognizes an opportunity? When the Athenians are away, the Spartans will play. And when Megara rebels, Sparta goes, let's get on the horse and we'll go help our buddy. So the peace treaty said that neither side was going to necessarily directly involve themselves in internal politics of the other city. But when Megara rebels, they say, we had an agreement with the Spartans. We had this we had this existing relationship that Athens sort of poached. Where was Athens when Corinth fell? Well, Corinth hasn't fallen yet. They're still sort of sitting there hoping and crossing their fingers that everybody's going to leave them alone. But I get the reference. So Sparta shows up to help out Megara, and at this point, Athens is scared, because that means the Spartan army is right here, and Athens is right here, boom, boom, boom. And the majority of the Athenian army is up here on this island. So Athens is kind of left open. So what you gonna do? Well, in comes a new Athenian, famous leader of land and sea. This guy. This guy's Pericles. Pericles is the leader of the Delian League fleet and army, and he recognizes that Athens cannot hope to fight a rebellion on one side and Sparta on the other side. So he approaches the Spartans and the Spartan king, and he goes, look, you got us. What do you want to go home? And the Spartans say, we want a 30-year peace treaty, and we want Megara back. And Pericles goes, done. And so Sparta goes back home, After securing a 30-year peace and getting their ally back, Pericles turns his attention to the island of Euboea and crushes the rebellion there really, really brutally. But this is sort of like leveling the playing field. Like, okay, now that everybody's sort of got their mojo back and everybody can kind of claim a little bit of a victory, maybe we'll just chill the heck out, right? You know better. You know better. And this is going to start happening again because of Athens. They just won't leave stuff alone. So in this big 30 years peace, again, part of the agreement is that Sparta's not going to mess with Athenian politics, and Athenians are not going to mess with Spartan politics. But each side has to respect the other's allies and territory. So if I'm in Sparta, I'm not supposed to go mess around in Athenian territory and vice versa. And this is where the gray area starts coming in, because technically Corinth was not involved in that discussion. But Athens knows best, right? So what's going down here? Well, Athens starts messing around with some colonies, especially some colonies over here in Ionia, in what is again Turkey, and some of these colonies in these islands down here. And some of those colonies were Corinthian colonies that had been founded by Corinth and had direct trade relationships with Corinth. And Athens starts trying to entice these colonies over to the side of the Delian League. Well, that doesn't go so great. Athens is just too big for their britches. Or togas. I'm sensing a running gag. I like it. Let's go with it. So, Corinth is going to get sick of Athens. Nice Corinthian colonies. Be ashamed if something happened to them, right? Hey, we all have Corinthian colonies down here. So, Corinth gets really hacked off at Athens and sort of gets up in their face and is like, look, you got to stop. And Athens is like, what you gonna do? And so Corinth calls on their ally and they go, hey, Sparta, Athens is breaking the treaty. And Sparta's like, go on. And of course they run up and they have this big, it's not really a come to Jesus meeting. They have this big come to Zeus meeting. And there's a delegation from Sparta and a delegation from Athens and the Delian League and a delegation from Corinth, and they're all just sort of bickering at each other. And in the middle of this, Athens gets the real big britches or big togas, and they go, okay, Sparta, how about you just pack yourself up and you go back home and you just let the big boys talk about this. And they basically tell Sparta that this has absolutely nothing to do with them, and that if they don't go home, Athens is going to beat the crap out of them. And Sparta's like, say what now? Oh, it's on. And they decide to take a vote, and Sparta's like, you're not going to punk us, we're going to punk you, you punks. And it's on. Sparta says, you have violated the 30 years peace because you're messing around in territory of our treaties. You should know that the wording of the treaty between us covers our allies. Stop being jerks. We're going to beat the crap out of you. Gotcha. This brings in a period of time that we call the Archidemian War. This is from Archidamos, technically Archidamus II, who is the king of Sparta at the time, the guy that refuses to be punked. And Sparta's going to just take it straight to Athens. And this is a scary moment for Athens because what's going to happen is literally Sparta's going to invade their home. Sparta's going to load up on ships. They're going to come over here to the Attic Peninsula, and they're going to invade Attica. And they get real close to Athens. And the only thing that is going to save Athens are these things called the Long Walls, which I know these sound like super fascinating, but this is basically what it looked like. So Athens had built these enormous walls that surrounded the entire city that kept this passageway open to Piraeus, which was the port city of Athens. And they had built these specifically to make sure that even if somebody invaded their territory, they would be able to constantly have contact with the sea. Because again, Athens is a mostly naval power. Now they have a military, but it's mostly going to rely on this, this movement of ships and troops on ships. So the Spartan army is going to get right up to these walls. And all of the people from Attica are going to basically move into these walls. That little strip of territory between Athens and Piraeus is going to just be jam-packed full of Athenian territorial people, like the everyday farmers and workers that are in the territory. And as you might expect, Athens runs away. They know that if they fight the Spartans on land, they will be destroyed. So what they have to do is try to tease out the Spartan navy and fight them on the water. But Sparta's not stupid. They're not going to sit there and let the Athenian navy, pound them into oblivion. They're just going to wait them out. And this is where some real bad stuff's going to happen. This is in 430 BC. Starting in 431, but continuing into 430, the Great Walls of Grecia, plague is going to break out. When you bring all of those people in Athens and the surrounding areas and you cram them together in this tiny little strip of territory, plague is going to break out. And ancient historians have tried to figure out exactly what this plague was. The leading suggestion is typhus, but we really don't know. Based on the ancient sources, especially Thucydides, who we'll talk about in just a second, it was nasty, and people were dying by the tens of thousands, including Pericles. The great leader of the Athenians is going to die from this plague. And this starts looking real bad for the Athenians. They're surrounded. The Spartans are literally in their back door. There's tens of thousands of people dying. Their great leader is dead. Things are not going so great. And then they catch a break. And it's so miraculously a break. Over here on the far side of the Peloponnese, there's a little island right about here. Boom. That island was a Spartan ally. And the Athenians are going to kind of just do this naval thing, right? They're sort of relying on this navy, and they catch a Spartan army over here. An army of 300 Spartan soldiers. And they capture them alive. And this is a pretty big deal, because remember, Sparta doesn't have an unlimited population, right? They're kind of always on the verge of running out of soldiers. And the longer that this war drags on, the more they're at a potential to run out of soldiers. So 300 Spartans might not seem that much, but let's all remember what 300 Spartans are supposedly, miraculously to have done against the Persians. They had other Greeks there with them. 300 Spartans were not the only Greeks there. There were 5,000 plus other soldiers from Greek territory there. But this is a big deal because Sparta's like, oh crap, we lost an army? Crap. So what you gonna do? Well, you go to Athens and you say, we want our soldiers back. And Athens is like, okay, go home. And they're like, well, crap, we can't do that because we're winning right now. If we just stay here, yeah, we're kind of going to win. And Athens is like, well, we're going to kill all your guys. And Athens is like, we could just wait. They'll go home. They're going to do it. There's no way that they're going to let us kill 300 of their guys. And Sparta kind of calls their bluff. And what they decide to do is march up here. And they go, where is Athens getting all of its money from? And there's a city up there called Amphipolis. Amphipolis. There we go. Amphipolis has a lot of silver mines. And Amphipolis was right on the border with Macedon, which was a Spartan ally. And Sparta goes, we're going to just march up there and take that city. Now, that's a long way from Spartan territory. Imagine how much of an investment this is. You know, I'm going to have to zoom out. All right, Sparta is down here. Amphipolis is up here. To march that far is a long way. But they march up there, they take Amphipolis, and they cut off the Athenian silver supply. And the Athenians get real mad about that. And so they're going to lead an invasion with their new leader, because Pericles is dead. Their new leader is this guy. A guy named Thucydides, who wrote basically the book on these wars. It's called The History of the Peloponnesian Wars. One of the great Greek historians who fought in a lot of these battles and had firsthand experience with a lot of this stuff. So Thucydides is going to be tasked with going up to Amphipolis, taking the city back, resecuring the Athenian silver, but he loses. He fails real bad. The other Greek leaders that were sort of sent in this are going to both die. He actually gets out by himself, but he is sort of stained with the loss regardless. So guess what Athenians do? They kick him out. Starting to develop a theme here, right? If you don't win, we kick you out. So Thucydides, after having fought with the side of the Athenians for this entire conflict, basically gets stuck with the loss of one battle, and then has to get, he just gets wandered out on his own and just can't come back. But this is actually, he'll be back. He actually never does get to come back. What's interesting, well, he has to wait out his whole term. When you get ostracized, you've got a decade that you can't come back. But what this gives him the opportunity to do is talk to both sides. And this is, I know this sounds pretty horrible because this guy lost a lot of his well-being. But because Thucydides gets banished by the Athenians, we know a lot more about this war. Because he wasn't able to go back into Athens, but he was still friendly enough with the Athenian people that he could talk to them. And because he had been kicked out of Athens, the Spartans trusted him enough to talk to him. So we have points of view for both sides of these conflicts because Thucydides was an outcast. And I know I'm kind of like reveling in his horrible luck, but sometimes we learn a lot from bad luck. And Thucydides just happens to be one of these times. So the Athenians have 300 Spartans. The Spartans have the Athenian silver supply. And they go, okay, Thucydides died inside so you could fly. Oh, man. He just died for... Yeah, that's true. Unfortunate. Poor old Thucydides. He really did write a great book, though. If you ever wanted to read an interesting take on history, Thucydides... you can tell that he's super biased. I mean, he's an Athenian. But it's super interesting stuff. So, there's a swap. Sparta says, you give us back our soldiers, we'll give you back your silver. And Athens is like, fine, whatever. So, in 421, they do this swap and they call a truce. And Athens needs a breather, Sparta needs a breather, everybody needs to just take a step back, sort of reassess everything, figure out what's going on, try to mentally figure out how to handle the rest of this stuff. And then Athens just won't let it go. I know I'm trying to make... I know it seems like I am saying Athens was the cause of most of this trouble. And it's because they were. I mean, just being honest, their politics and their desire to control the entire Greek world is what kept starting all of these problems. The Spartans, of course, weren't completely innocent in this. They were jerks and they were threatening to kill everybody. But Athens is typically the one that starts the dominoes falling. And what they're going to do this time is, instead of going after Sparta directly, they're going to start trying to get their allies that are on the Peloponnesian Peninsula to do it for them. And Athens is going to call back up Argos. And they're going to say, hey, Argos, you're right by Sparta. You know that there are people on the Peloponnesian Peninsula that like the idea of democracy. Sparta was not a democracy. Sparta was a monarch. Well, technically, they had kings. They were tyrants. They had two kings, technically. They weren't a monarchy, but they were definitely not democratic. And of course, most of the people under their control didn't even have the basic level of human rights because they were slaves. Athens was a democracy and was trying to push this democracy everywhere it could. And Argos had sort of taken up a little bit of this. And they go, hey, Argos, we know that there are other people on the Peloponnesian that would really like democracy. They want to get rid of these tyrants. They want to get rid of these single-headed leaders that always go with Sparta. And Argos is like, yeah, that's true. And Athens is like, why don't you start putting together some of these democratically minded city-states on the Peloponnesian, and why don't you be the new figurehead of democracy? Why don't you stand up to the Spartans and give them the old 1-2 with all of your allies on the Peloponnesian? And we'll send you money, and we'll send you ships, and we'll send you supplies. But you be the leader. You step up, Argos. You be what you are called to be. And Argos is like, yeah, this sounds great. If you ever want to hear the definition of a resounding defeat, look up the Battle of Mantinea. This happens in 418. Sparta figures out what Athens is up to. And Sparta marches out to Mantinea and meets the army of Argos and its allies, and it absolutely crushes them. It is so one-sided, lopsided victory that Argos is basically left without an army. The democratic allies of the Peloponnesian effectively have to beg Sparta not to destroy them. After this battle, everybody knows who the power is on the Peloponnesian Peninsula. And Athens looks like an idiot because they had wasted money and time and effort trying to prop up Argos. They got squashed. It's real bad. So if you can't go to the Peloponnesian to find allies, where are you gonna go? Well, you got to start looking a little bit further abroad. And you got to start looking for unallied Greeks. And Athens is going to turn its attention to the island of Sicily. Over here, especially the city of Syracuse. Athens decides that these Sicilian colonies had sat on the sidelines long enough. Like, they didn't get to sit out the war. Right? You don't get to just sit over there and goof off and watch while we're fighting. Hey, Cassidy Austin. For those of you that don't know, Cassidy Austin Art, great oil painter. We rated her channel a few ago. Go give her a follow, though. Really cool stream. Does great art. Trained in Italy. That should be enough. You should go just because I say you should go, but I like giving valid and legitimate arguments as to why I'm telling you to go there. I'm not going to be the Spartans and tell you what to do. I'm going to be the Athenians and encourage you to do it. Welcome, Cassidy. So, Syracuse has just kind of been sitting over here for these entire period of time, for like the last 30 years, and they're watching Sparta and Athens beat the mess out of each other, just kind of like giggling and making money off of both of them, right? And Athens goes, no, you don't get to do this anymore. You're going to either be part of the war or you're going to be out. And Athens decides that they're just going to invade and take Syracuse. Because, Athens can do that, right? We're just going to float in, take your city. You can't really do anything about it. We're Athens. Ugh, right? You're going to be the Macedonians and largely ignore you. Does that also mean that, 50 years from where we are, you're going to come back and conquer me? Because just so, I don't like that idea. Didn't Syracuse have the Book of Peace? Syracuse had tried to play both sides. They had really tried to stay neutral, and Athens was just not liking that. Athens was sort of out of excuses. So, until Eris stole it, my son will eventually conquer most of the known world. I don't know how that's going to happen unless you start having kids again. So, I guess you need to talk to the wife about that. Or maybe one of your daughters. Anyway, Athens tries to invade. Syracuse is going to be completely against this invasion, right? They're like, no, this is bad. And if you're Syracuse and you're getting attacked by Athens, who are you going to call? Everybody knows who they're going to call. Who are they going to call? Of course they're going to call Sparta. Oh, Sparta. Sparta's like, oh yeah, we'll totally send you some aid. No problem. You guys just hold on. We got your back. And at this point, Athens is really sick of their leader. And I know that we've been through so many Athenian leaders. This guy's name is Alcibiades. Did I type that right? Nope, I did not type that right. No, I typed that right. Alcibiades. And he was not successful in taking Syracuse in this big initial punch. And he starts thinking, and he starts hearing rumors that when he gets back to Athens, he's going to get kicked out. Because what does Athens do, right? When Athens gets hacked off at a leader, what do? You kick the bum out. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. And Alcibiades is not interested in being ostracized. He doesn't like the idea that Athens is going to kick him out for one loss, right? And so what is he going to do? Oh, wait for it. He just turns traitor and joins the Spartans. Oh, and man, this just burns their bottoms right through their togas. This, by the way, again, Thucydides, this is Alcibiades, which is what it says here if you can read the Greek. So Alcibiades turns tail and joins the Spartans. And oh man, is this going to be good. So now, oh snap, right? And he's going to tell the Spartans everything. He's going to be like, okay, so here's exactly how many ships the Athenians have. Here's exactly where all of their troops are. Here's all of their battle plans. Here's what they were trying to do. Here's what they're planning on doing. And the Spartans are like, oh yes, we like this, all of this stuff. And guess what? As soon as the Spartans land, they have all of this great information. They crush the Athenian army. And then they wait, based on what Alcibiades had told them to do, right in the perfect spot to catch the Athenian navy, and then they break the back of the Athenian navy. And they burn lots of ships, and this is real bad for the Athenians. This is so humiliating. Really bad. And Alcibiades is going to be like, I break you. Yeah, exactly. He's their new secret weapon. And the Spartans just pump this guy for information. They're like, okay, so because you were fighting us, how should we protect ourselves from what the Athenians are thinking? And he's like, oh, this is great. I've got a load of things I can tell you to do. First off, you got to go back over to the region of Attica you were in. You had almost broken them in that whole invasion where they were behind the long walls. You had them on the ropes, man. They were so close to defeating. And what you need to do is you need to go over to Attica, and you need to take that territory back, but you need to build a giant friggin' fort around it, because there's no way they'll be able to push you out. And the Spartans are like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's totally go over there. We're going to take one of these little cities in Attica, and they're going to fortify the devil out of it. And so they do. They come down here to Attica, and they get down into this southern part of Attica, right around here. There's a little city that has a strategic location because it is basically right on the road from this southern part of Greece up to Athens. And this southern part of the Attic Peninsula has a lot of metal deposits. It has iron, it also has some silver, but this is what Athens was using for a lot of its supplies and some of its money. And so when Sparta takes this city and fortifies it, well, Sparta actually does something kind of interesting. It frees all of the workers. And he's like, go be free, my Athenian servants. You go do whatever you want to. And this is great. This is going to effectively bankrupt Athens. They are so ticked off at Alcibiades. It's so great. And like the whole time, all of the people that were in Athens that hated him were like, no, he needed to go. He had to go. And everybody else is like, you're such an idiot. Why did you get this guy mad at us? Because he's giving away everything. He has made us look like idiots. We're bankrupt. We have nothing. And so Athens really only has one alternative, and that is, okay, all of you allies that are left, we don't have any more money left, so you've got to pay for everything now. And how do you think the Athenian allies are going to like that? They had already been milked and bilked for the last 30 years of this Athenian squabble. And Athens is like, oh no, we need more troops. We got to have more money. No, we need everything. And what's crazy is that they even reach out to Persia. And Athens goes hat in hand to Persia and the ruler of Persia. And they say, hey man, we know you don't like us. We know we have really insulted you and your family and said a whole bunch of horrible things about your lineage and your virility and all that stuff, but we could really use some money and some help right now. Could you spare us a bit? And the Persians are like, really? Yeah, we called your mom fat. We made disparaging rumors about you on the walls in the bathrooms. We left your cell phone number on the public website, and you got all those spam callers. We used your email address for all of those really, really nasty porn websites. We know we've done all these horrible things to you, but if you could just find it in your Persian hearts to help us, we would be ultimately appreciative. And the Persians are like, yeah, okay. We will totally send you aid. You guys count on it. We'll totally send you ships. Wait, that was you guys? Exactly. Like, how do you expect the Persians to respond to this? They're like, well, we're going to want something out of it. And the Athenians are like, well, I mean, what do you want? And like, we're going to want all of the Ionian colonies back. And like, we already got most of them, like all of them. And the Athenians are like, fine, freaking colonies anyway, stupid freaking. The Persians never show up with help, by the way. They say, oh yeah, we got your back. And then they never show up. They just completely blank the Athenians. Oh, man. And so Athens actually gets, like, convinced. No. Like, Athens is convinced. Like, oh, dude, the Persians are going to come help us. And all of our allies are going to send us all of this stuff, and we're going to get this army back together, and we're going to beat the friggin' crap out of the Spartans. It's going to be amazing. Round 2, Syracuse, round 2. And so they go back and they try to invade Syracuse again. And at that point, Syracuse doesn't even need the Spartans' help. They just get destroyed again. Like the Athenian invasion just gets flat destroyed by the Syracuse army, and Sparta is like, okay, so now Syracuse, we didn't ask you at the beginning if you wanted to be our ally. You asked for our help. We showed up. We respected your boundaries. We helped you, and then we left. And then Athens came back, and they tried to attack you again, but because we helped you the first time and gave you some good advice, you were able to fight them off. So at this point, we would like to request, if you're interested, would you like to be on our side? And Syracuse is like, heck yeah, sign me up. We're going to go take those jokers down. Yeah. And this is real bad for the Athenians. And at this point, we kind of get back to, take me back, baby, take me back. Because Alcibiades gets some messages from Athens. Because Athens is in desperate straits right now. They're like, oh crap, we are hosed. And some of these people get word back to Alcibiades that, dude, if you would take us back, I know that we were going to kick you out, and I know that we were saying horrible things about you, and I know that you have been helping the Spartans, but look, man, if you came back, we would welcome you like a hero, and we would forget that you turned traitor and gave the Spartans all of our secret information and all of our classified documents. We would forget that you gave them the nuclear launch code sequences. We would forget all of that. We would welcome you like a hero, Alcibiades. Come on back, man. Come on back. Just come on back with us. That was you guys? And Alcibiades goes back. He switches back because he wants that glory. He wants that sweet, sweet Athenian glory. And he gets back to Athens, and his followers had actually rebelled against the people that were running Athens. And there's all of this mess going on. But when he finally takes back over, he knows exactly how to get rid of the Spartans because he was the one that told them how to do all of this. So he orchestrates this scenario where he's going to simultaneously attack with naval and land forces against the fortified Spartan city in Attica, and not only breaks the walls of that fort and gets into the city, but crushes basically the entire Spartan navy, because now he's got both sides against each other and he knows how everybody's thinking. You just can't stay away. I just can't quit you, Athens. I wish I knew how to quit you. So, with this sudden resurgence, the Spartan fleet is wrecked. All of this money comes pouring back into Athens. Sparta doesn't know how to handle this because now Alcibiades is giving all of the Spartan war secrets to the Delian League, and now Athens is going on a victory streak, and Sparta's like, oh crap, what the devil is going on? Dude, we were like 5 seconds away from friggin' winning, and now we're losing again? And so Sparta has to go to Persia, and they're like, hey, Persia, I know that we said some pretty nasty things about you, and I know that we did some pretty horrible things, and I know that we humiliated your family members, and I know that we've been kind of a jerk, but we also know that you really hate Athens. Wait, that was you guys? So we know that you really hate Athens, and we really hate Athens. So we know you said you were going to help Athens, but we know that you ghosted them. So would you maybe like help us? And the situation had changed a little bit because of this guy. Not Alcibiades. He was... Look at how handsome this guy is. I mean, if that guy came up to you and said, hey, I have all of the Spartan war secrets, wouldn't you trust that guy? That dude's a good-looking dude. But this guy, he's sitting in a fancy chair, and he's got a nice fancy cup and a big old staff. Hey, Lone Wolf. This guy is Darius the Third. I'm sorry, Darius the Second. Darius the Second. Boop ba da doom, boop ba da doom. Darius. That was Green Giant, by the way. So Darius is currently the king or the emperor of Persia, and there's a Spartan guy named Lysander. Not that guy from Midsummer Night's Dream. The guy that Midsummer Night's Dream dude is named after. Lysander had been sort of over in Turkey already. The Spartans had been kind of on the down low, working a little bit with the Persians over here. Sorry. Let me zoom out a little bit more. Over here in Asia Minor. And the Spartans were kind of like giving away the secret to the Spartan war effort to the Persians. The Persians were on a little bit of a down slope. They were not nearly as powerful as they had been. Partially because the Delian League had whipped them, but also they had lost a lot of control in Egypt, and they were facing constant rebellions against a lot of their territory. So they were sort of looking for some help. And this guy Lysander goes up to Darius, and he's like, look, man, we're kind of friends, right? And we've done some stuff, and I'm good friends with your son. Here's the deal. Let me just be straight. The Spartans never came after you guys. When you invaded us, yeah, we fought. Okay, but you gotta give it to us, man. You came on our turf, we had to get you out. But when we pushed you out, Sparta stopped. It was those darn Athenians that kept on coming. Those are the ones that you got to really be afraid of. And if you want, you could help us out. We'll go beat the crap out of Athens, because we don't like them either. And Darius was like, that's not a bad idea. What you say is logical. We did fight you. You did beat us, but when we left, you stopped fighting. This is an important point. This makes logic sense. Plus, you're helping our people over here in Asia Minor. You've got some soldiers that are going to basically kind of be basically fighting on my side. There's this whole thing about the 10,000. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later on when Persia really falls apart. But what are we to do? Well, Persia doesn't really want to give them an army because Persia doesn't necessarily have an army to spare. But what it can do is basically make Lysander kind of like the governor of Asia Minor. So a lot of this territory over here, these kingdoms like Lydia and Phrygia that had been Persian satrapies that had been giving Persia a lot of trouble, they go, look, man, here's the deal. If you can keep this area on lockdown and make sure that this area doesn't rebel against Persia, you can have the money and all the troops that you can pull out of this area. And Lysander is like, hey, going back to Sparta with a birthday present. And Lysander is going to single-handedly, well, not single-handedly because he's got this big army and giant navy with him, but he's going to put the whipping on Athens. The first thing he's going to do is sail his fleet to right here. Right here. This little region is called the Dardanelles, and it's a very, very thin strait of water that connects the Aegean Sea to the Sea of Marmara to the Black Sea. And all along the coast of the Black Sea here, Athens had colonies. And they specifically had colonies that produced a ton and a ton and a ton of food. And Lysander is going to hit them where it hurts. So he pulls his fleet up right here and cuts off their food supply. No more food going to Athens. Not going to happen. And when the Athenian navy tries to sail up into the Dardanelles to block him, Lysander is trained to fight in ships. He's not the typical Spartan, lazy naval commander. This dude is smart as a whip, and he traps their fleet in the Dardanelles and wrecks the Athenian fleet. No food, no fleet. What's Athenians got to do now? Well, what do you think they got to do now? The only thing that they have to do now is to surrender. And they do. This is the final phase of the Peloponnesian War, and the Athenians surrender. And as a condition of their surrender, they have to tear down the long walls. Those walls that connected them to Piraeus, that secured their access to the sea. Got to tear them down, which is why they're not there now, which is why you can't go see them now. Ask Winston Churchill how easy the Dardanelles are to take. Yeah, or the Russians, or the Germans, or the Ottomans. Why surrender? They could have asked the Persians for help. Right? So look, I know that. So with no food, no military, Athens has to surrender. They tear down the long walls, and for a period of time, Athens is ruled by tyrants. They destroy democracy in Athens. There's a period of time called the 30 Tyrants that takes place right after the end of the Peloponnesian Wars here. Athens is going to be able to eventually take back over democratic control, but they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed pretty badly. Sparta is way on the upswing. They strut around pretty high. They actually do send a lot of troops over to help the Persians out. That gets them stuck in a really nasty scenario where their troops kind of get abandoned. I probably need to talk about that in another stream. If you're interested, read the Anabasis by a Greek historian named Xenophon. I know that you're actively participating in our destruction, but I am once again coming to you asking for your help. Right. Somebody needs to take the Bernie Sanders "I am once again asking for your help" meme and put like an Athenian head, like Alcibiades' head on it. I'm once again asking for your support. All right, ladies and gents, that is the conclusion of the Peloponnesian Wars. Betrayal, please take me backness, which is again why Balkan on Broken Glass I think was so appropriate. If you haven't heard that song, by the way, by Annie Lennox, you should totally go check it out. It's a really good song. And the music video is awesome. It has John Malkovich, has Hugh Laurie. These are reasons you should go watch the music video. Also, Annie Lennox is just really good. You should listen to her music anyway. Okie dokie. So that is technically all for me, but we don't have to leave if you all are still interested in doing stuff. If you remember, below you have all sorts of dum da dum dum da dum 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 da dum dum dum. Thank you, Synchronicity 3, and welcome to the adventure. Hope you're having a good one. It should be a historical soap opera. Yeah. And like at one point, this shadowy figure shows back up in Athens, and they're like, "Who is this masked man?" And it is I, Alcibiades. Oh man, good times. Let's slip the puppy of war. Okay, let me call the puppy. Hold on just a second. She must have been asleep. Oh, here comes the puppy. Hello, Kaylee. Come and see me. Come here. What? Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, there's the puppy. Oh, yes. Oh, there's the sugars. Oh, hello. Your audience are not... Oh, my goodness. Okay. Oh, there's the puppy sugars. Oh, my goodness. Okay. Oh, yes. Oh, more. Okay. Okay, yes. Oh, yes. People like you more than they like me. Goodness gracious. What? Hello. You want to come and see me again? You want me to scratch your ears? Oh, yes. Just scratch my ears. Okay. Okay. Oh, such a good girl. You want to come and see me again? You want to come up here? Come. No, there's stuff around. No. Come. It's okay. Come on. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there's the puppy. There we go. Oh, some more kisses. Yeah. That's a good girl. Okay, there we go. There was the puppy. But what of Pelops and his tantalizing feast, indeed. So what I was saying before the puppy interlude was that below you, in the chat, there is a little picture of the adventure hat, and you can redeem them for little adventure points. You can redeem them for many, many things. Not just the standard Twitch things, but I've put a whole bunch of stuff down there that I think is fun and cool and ways for you all to interact with me. So, who is that behind you? This guy on the wall, that is the Riddler. My wife painted that. That is, let me see if I can get you a better shot of it. Maybe, where am I going? Where am I looking at? There we go. Yep. Yep, it's the Riddler. My wife painted that for me. My wife is an awesome artist, by the way. And painted that for me as a gift and delivered it to me in one of the most interesting ways that I have ever received a gift. And this is totally G-rated, by the way, for those of you about to go like all salty. I woke up and I walked out of the bedroom, and on the wall there was a green envelope with a little purple clue in it, and I had to go on a scavenger hunt of riddles to find more riddles, to find more riddles, to eventually find the painting. And it was absolutely awesome. I will never be able to equate the level of coolness and gift giving that my wife was able to. You're trying to scare me. Oh, the puppy comes again. Let me see if I can get the puppy back again. They want to see you again. They want to see you again. Come here. Come here. Hey, come up here. She's so expectant. No, come up here. Don't show me your tummy. Maybe I can get this. This is super freaking cute. That's what I'm getting right now. Hey, what are you doing? You're showing me your tummy. There's the puppy. Oh, hello. You want to sniff this? Oh, yes, lots of good sniffs. There's the puppy. Oh, hello. Oh, the kitty. Hello. She likes getting her booty scratched right here, too. Oh, and yes, the back. Gotta scratch the back. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, scratch my back. Oh, it feels so good. Oh, almost got the foot going. Did it get the foot? Sometimes I can get the foot going. Okay, that's a good girl. All right. So there's the puppy again. I forgot that I could pick my camera up now, so that will be a, I guess, a more enhanced puppy summoning option. She is half boxer and half some kind of terrier. We haven't done any of like the puppy DNA to figure out exactly what she is, but half boxer is certain, half some other version of terrier. And she's all mess. She's a mutt. She was a stray as a puppy that we, actually one of my wife's coworkers found her in a parking lot, and we took her in. And she's a little bit over 5 now, going on 5 or a little bit over 5, and completely a mess and rotten as all get out. So, but there's more stuff down there too. I'm not telling you that you have to go do all of that stuff, but if you want to, it's there for fun. Otherwise, I am going to go see maybe if we can raid somebody. Let's see who is around. Let's see who's on the Twitch. Who we got? We've got Kirk Shannon. We've got Studio Doggaby. We've got 8 p.m. We haven't raided 8 p.m. in a while. Let's go raid 8 p.m. So we'll do that. But before we go, last call for channel point redemptions, any sort of last minute questions. They don't have to be last minute questions. If you have questions, I mean, I'll hang around forever if you want me to. I have no problem talking. That's not really something that I have an issue with. But it's kind of like last call. You ain't gotta go home, but you can't stay here. What's next week? That's a great question. I should be able to tell you that off the top of my head, but I can't. Luckily, I have a fancy little schedule that I've typed out for myself that I can check. I've been fiddling around with this so much. I keep finding more things that I want to talk about. That's the reason why I can't remember. I keep going, oh, I need to talk about that too, and oh, I need to talk about that too. Right now, what's scheduled, and now that I'm looking at it and I'm getting kind of excited about it, the early Republican Rome and the wars of Italy. So fighting against Etruscans and fighting against Greek colonies and the establishment of the Republic and kicking out the kings and all of that stuff over in Rome. Big fan of Rome, so might stick with that. But Tuesday stream is viewer request for the Industrial Revolution. I'm going to be focusing on the first Industrial Revolution, not the subsequent Industrial Revolutions. So the one that hit, with all the machination and steam stuff. We'll be doing that as a viewer request on Tuesday. Next Thursday, early Republican Rome. So getting a little bit deeper into my really, really interested area. I mean, I like all of this stuff, but goodness gracious, man, I love me some Rome. So that's the plan. Anything else, anybody? Oh, and welcome, Motivic. I didn't even say welcome. Hope you're having a good one, friend. Hope you're having a good one. Anybody else got any questions, channel point stuff? And you can ask me anything that you want to about history. We don't have to just talk about Peloponnesian Wars. If you got anything sitting around, just floating around in your head, just throw it out there. It'll be all right. If I don't know it, I'll say so. If I do know it, I might go on and on a bit. But history of smoking the reefer. History of Middle Earth. Is that what you're typing? History of Middle Earth. Are you about to say history of Middle Earth? Oh man, I keep getting asked about that. I could totally do a history of Middle Earth. I am such a giant Tolkien nerd. It filtered Earth? Oh, you typed too fast and it filtered Earth. Okay. Ah, man. I was actually talking to the mods about what to do with History of Middle Earth. I think I might do some sort of I'll think about it. I know people have asked me multiple times to do a History of Middle Earth. I might work on it as some sort of goal. I don't like doing like the so many subscribers goal. I don't necessarily think that it's fair to me to ask other people to spend money on something that I'm going to offer to other people for free, if that makes any sense. So I want to try to find a way to make that like I don't know, maybe something that everybody can pitch in on that doesn't cost anybody money. So I'm still looking for a way to do that. Was it British genius or just the presence of coal? It wasn't just the British. And a lot of those ideas came from other places too. Figuring out that you could burn coal was a big deal, but they were doing industrial stuff before coal even showed up. Spinning wheels and water wheels. Who's the bigger Tolkien geek, me or Colbert? I don't know. You would like to see a loader off? I don't know. I would probably say him because I don't know how much that he knows, but I know a lot about Tolkien. I've read a lot of that stuff a lot of times. So we did electricity before fossil fuel. Yeah, we did. We did indeed. All right. I'm sensing that we are coming to a close, ladies and gents. So thank you all very, very much. I'm going to hit this raid button. We're going to go raid 8 p.m. Who is doing some art. Our battle cry as we go in on the raid is adventure. If you've got the emotes, throw them. Otherwise, I will see everybody probably on Tuesday. I might do a Gundam build stream over the weekend. I don't know if I'm going to have time to do that or not. But if not, I will see you on Tuesday. We'll talk about the Industrial Revolution. We'll have a good time. I'll make bad puns as always. But until then, my friends, thank you very much for coming by, and I will see you then.